Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Hey, yes, welcome if you're joining for the first time. If you're coming back, welcome. I'll introduce myself, the educator. Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Yes, I will introduce myself first, and then I'll pass it over to my lovely guest, Samara, to introduce herself. But my name is Marissa Price. I am a Black woman social worker and business educator dedicated to creating safe spaces for Black women to share our stories, our authentic stories, because that's so important in healing. So this channel focuses on conversations, again, centering Black women on mental health, healing, travel, and money so that we can get free, which is really like, what all of us are looking to do, I feel like, at this point. But with that, I will pass over to Samara to introduce herself and share a little bit about her channel. Let's talk about with Mara.
Hey everyone, my name is Samara, and I'm a new content creator on YouTube, and I do have a channel called Let's Talk About It with Mara. And on my channel, basically, my channel is all about me kind of going through the healing process, and just going through the journey of finding out who I am and um, me healing from narcissistic narcissism that have I experienced
Mm-hmm.
and kind of just having epiphany moments and kind of sharing that with the world and sharing that with those who may have experienced what I have experienced. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and just to kind of just have a safe space because you always kind of hear about like healing, 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 but sometimes I don't know, you never really get that authentic in the process. So my channel is kind of like me just going through the motions and just sharing about it.
Mm-hmm. And that's so true. Like healing can feel like this huge word that we don't really know what it looks like. We don't really know what it means. But I think by
Yeah.
you just sharing like your authentic journey, like I think that's been helpful for me. That's been helpful for so many people just to see it put plainly and to
Yeah.
see it be like, this is what it looks like. I
Hmm.
love that. I love that. So
Thanks.
thank you. And yes, I did link your channel in the chat. If y'all please subscribe to her channel, it's amazing. Lavendula, hey, good evening. Yes, got all the folks here. Yes, welcome y'all. Yes, just ended it again with the narcissist. Yeah, yeah, they're everywhere. They
Hmm.
really are
They
everywhere.
ain't. You
Um,
can't escape them.
ooh,
You can dodge them
yeah,
sometimes.
that is true. So I did want to ask you, like you said, like on your channel, you talk a lot about healing from narcissistic abuse, which a lot of us can relate to. They are everywhere. But I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you what motivated you to start your channel and just talk openly about your experiences healing from narcissistic abuse.
Yeah. So it took me a while to like kind of start a channel because I felt like I had to be at a certain level or like a certain place in my life to kind of talk about these things because I'm not an expert. Um, so I was like, do I want to start a channel? But I'm just stepping my foot in this healing pond. Like, what do I have to say? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of, it really started kind of from that self doubt. Um, and like, I would be in all these spaces, and you hear a lot of people talking about overcoming narcissism and abuse. But I thought about, well, what about those who feel like that they're alone? You know what I mean? Like, I want my, like, I want to I have a lot to say too, That's why I named my channel
Yeah.
Let's Talk About It with Mara because I was always silenced growing up. So I
Mhm.
have a lot to say and hearing like other content creators saying, you don't have to be perfect. So I
No.
just said, you know what? Just talk. Like
Mm-hmm.
just start talking. And
Just talk. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what made me kind of start the channel was just, feeling like I didn't have to be perfect or I didn't have to be like 5 years, 10 years deep into healing in order for
Mm-hmm.
me to even share certain experiences and stories. Like I can start now.
Mm-hmm. That's key. Yeah, because we need people like who have authentic journeys, who have a lived experience. A lot of
Yeah.
times we're taught that you have to have like all these credentials. You have to
Yeah.
be like an expert, whatever that means. If you
Mhm.
lived it, you're an expert,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Yeah.
that's key. And we
Just
need
talk about
stories
it.
like yours. Yeah. Just talk about it. Yeah. I love that. I did want to ask you, just for the audience, how were you able to recognize that what you were experiencing was narcissistic abuse as you look back?
Whew, girl. Okay. So I didn't even know what narcissism was. And I think a lot of people probably didn't, probably until like the pandemic. Um, I was following this content creator. I don't know how I started following her. She has a YouTube and TikTok, and her name is Spiritual Whistleblower. And she was talking about like her story with her mom. And I would listen. Like I knew I was always like I knew my household was toxic because I was in therapy before. But like when she was telling her stories and she was educating people on narcissism, I'm like, is she speaking my story? Like this sounds like my life. Like it felt like she was talking to me, and she was going over traits and she was talking about this, and I was just like, that's my mom. Like I've experienced that. I didn't know there was a term for it. Like I thought I was the only one. And then I started going on YouTube, and then I was hearing other people's stories, and they were talking about y- growing up with a narc parent. And I started listening to Dr. Romney. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with, yeah, and I started
Yes.
watching her videos, and I'm like,
hmm
yeah, that's it.
That's what yeah, that's the same thing that I
Hmm.
did because I didn't even know the term
Hmm.
narcissism,
Yeah.
narcissistic
And I
abuse
was like,
until
oh,
watching her
what?
channel. Yeah, and I learned all these terms. I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, this is
Hmm.
what I've been experiencing my whole life. Like
Yeah.
in understanding the cycle of it too.
Yeah.
And how it
Yeah.
starts off love bombing and goes through, to the discard phase. Wow, all of this
Discarding,
was out there. Yeah.
gaslighting. I was like, yeah, this is like it was like looking in a mirror, to be honest.
Hmm.
Yep. It's I was in denial for a while though. I'm not gonna lie. I was in
Yeah.
denial. I mean, like I knew I grew up, my household was different, but I'm like, is this it? Is this it? But then, I had to kind of sit with myself, like, yeah, she's a narcissist.
Because there's that initial denial phase, right?
Hmm.
Especially when it
Yeah.
comes to our caregivers, our parents, just
Yeah.
recognizing that they have these traits and tendencies. It's like that's a whole other
Yeah.
healing process. Because it's like
Yeah.
you mourn the relationship that you should have had with this person and
And that's
realizing
where I'm
why that
going through
was.
now. Yeah, mourning,
Mm.
and it hurts when you have to like attach them to this term. You kind of have this, like, for me, and it's something I'm still working on. You kind of have this hope, you know what I mean? But then when you have like that realization, like you really have to. It's like I had to say, this is what it is. You know what I mean? Like the thought of like having to like accept it was like it was hard. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
Yeah. That is
In
really hard.
denial.
It is. I wanted to ask some of the ways that you've been able to start your healing journey as you've kind of recognized and
Yeah.
come to that understanding that this is what it is. How you've been able just to start healing and accepting.
Girl, I'm still in the process. I'm still in the process, but I feel like for
Yeah.
me, well, therapy is one. I mean, I've
hmm
I went to therapy in my early 20s. I'm 30 now. I went to therapy in my early 20s. Um, to be honest, my therapist, when I first went back then, she was the one who actually told me, like, yeah, this ain't normal. Like I had a session with her, and I was like, yeah, I woke up one day and my mom called me names. She called me out my name. And then I went to school. And then she's like, wait, what? Like, does this happen often? And I'm like, yeah. So going to therapy, and that was my first time ever, you know, one day I woke up and was like, I need to go to therapy. Like I knew something was off. So I got into therapy. Um, but I think therapy overall is like, because I stopped. I went back then, and then I stopped. And then a year ago, I decided I need to go back to therapy, because I'm out of the toxic situation, but I have to now navigate, and something is stagnant for me. You know. So I think therapy, for one, is kind of helping me get into that healing journey. Going no contact. because it really is hard to heal, and then be in contact with your abuser, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like being able to, like, I don't even think it's possible. I mean, I know everybody's situation is different, um, but it is just it's hard to, and I had to recognize that, like, I can't be in contact with her and then want to be a better me. Like, I have to cut the cord. So going no contact has definitely helped me. Being in community, on YouTube, and hearing other women's stories, watching your channel, and just hearing people just talk about just everyday issues that I feel like, especially in the Black community, we don't really talk about. You know what I mean? Like, handling jealousy, envy, talking about
Mm-hmm.
finding joy. Like, you don't, I mean, you don't always find these type of conversations. So just being in community, therapy, shadow work,
I would love for
um,
you to talk more about that because that's a term
shadow
I've been
work.
seeing pop up a lot. Shadow work.
Yeah, just kind of like, cause I finally got my first apartment this year, so now I'm able in my own space to kind of like discover who I am and kind of process things. Um, I was watching this other channel and they were saying how, like, when you've gone through abuse, your brain is like in survival mode for a long time. And I think my mind was always in survival mode, but now I'm able to kind of process what's happened now that I'm like on my own. Like, I'm not in isolation, but I'm able to kind of be away from like the busyness of like everything else. So I'm able to kind of process things, analyze things. Sometimes I be in my head too much. I ain't gonna lie. So I have to find a balance, but being able to kind of just reflect, has helped me a lot.
So I do want to ask, do you do like journaling or anything like that to help you kind of
Yes.
with that reflection process? Okay.
Yes, I journal. I do journal. I write down some notes. Even if it's just like a sentence. Sometimes I be slacking. I ain't gonna lie, I be slacking. But I do journal. I do journal. Like,
Me
I'm like,
too.
girl, you better write it down. If you feeling angry, if you feeling this, write it down. So yes, journaling. Because when
Mhm.
you write it down, it feels more real.
Right.
Like, it
That's
feels
true.
like, like, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, because you can kind of get those thoughts that are just like kind of swimming around in your head.
Hmm.
At least they're on
Yep.
paper, and you can
Right.
see them. So it kind
Yep.
of makes it more concrete. Yeah, I do love that. I wanted to ask, are there any like specific practices that you've found helpful in rebuilding your self-esteem? Because we know with narcissistic abuse, it has a huge impact on your self-esteem, on your self-image. Just any
Yeah.
practices that you've incorporated into your life to help you
Yeah.
rebuild.
Talking kindly to myself, um,
Yeah,
you know, and allowing myself to make mistakes, and like, um even if it's just the littlest thing, because I know growing up I used to get ostracized just for spilling something on you know what I mean, on the floor. So
yeah.
now, like, if I make a little mistake, I'm able to kind of just talk kindly to myself, look in the mirror and say I'm worth it, writing
Ooh,
affirmations down.
yes. Uh huh.
um I had created this healing board that I have right by my work desk, and I wrote down like a whole bunch of affirmations that I liked that stuck with me, and then I take my baby pictures and like my toddler pictures on it. So I felt like I was attached to those words. So, um, and I called it a
Oh, that's
healing board.
beautiful.
Yeah, so whenever I feel a certain way, or I can just look at it and I can see the younger me. I'm looking at it as I'm talking. And I could just like look at it, and that kind of helps me stay grounded. But just talking kindly to myself, is
Mm,
what I is something that I'm practicing a lot,
yes.
because for me, I didn't grow up in a very positive environment.
Hmm.
um so just, you got this, it's okay to rest. You know I know I be probably sound looking crazy when I'm alone. But just talking kindly to myself. That's the one thing that I'm practicing on. I do need more practice on other coping skills, but I'm sticking to what
Mhm.
I know for now. But I'll get there.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah, I do that too. I talk to myself too. Like I will literally, because it's important to substitute the voices that you've internalized that haven't been
Yeah,
supportive or
yeah,
helpful with your own. Because now that you're an adult, right, and you're out of that, it's like you
yeah,
can substitute those voices. They don't have to stay inside you anymore.
yeah,
You can be your
yeah.
own voice of support. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm somebody who suffers from complex PTSD. So that alone kind of makes it a struggle. So
Yeah.
being able to talk kindly to myself and talk kindly to my inner child is like
Mm-hmm.
if I don't feel comfortable speaking out loud, pretend little Samara is there, in front of me. And I'm just like, you got this. It's okay. Take a
Mm-hmm.
breather. You forgot your debit card. It's all right. It happens.
Yeah. Just those kind words. It's like it's
hmm
okay to make mistakes because a
Yeah.
lot of us grow up in households where we're, like you said, we're overly criticized for the smallest
hmm
things, and then that creates things like anxiety going
Yeah.
forward in adulthood. It's like you're scared to do anything wrong, but you
Yeah.
can create that sense of support and give yourself leeway for being
Yeah.
human, right?
Yeah.
As an
That's what I
adult, yeah,
agree. I agree. That's
yeah,
where I'm at.
yeah. And I did want to talk about your affirmations book
Yeah.
that you just released,
Yeah.
called Black Women Shades of Beauty Self Care Affirmations for Black Women, which I'm linking in the chat. But what inspired you to create this ebook?
Well, when I was looking for journals, I was looking for like journals that had images of like black women on it.
Yeah,
And I saw some and then I was just like, this would be cool to kind of like design. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
I my first actual journal, I did get off Amazon and it was created by a black woman. And I was just like looking through the book and I'm like, this is so amazing that, you know, black women are actually creating these type of journals. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like these type of
Yes.
books. And it's like, and to be able to kind of like um just to see these images makes it feel more healing, like I'm not alone. And that's what kind of made me want to start an ebook because practicing affirmations and gratitude was something that um, I was kind of going into, and
Hmm.
I'm like, let me try this. And plus, I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
something new. Play around with Canva and just kind of like play with colors. So that's kind of what made me start the book, and just to help others, other women.
I love that. Just to have fun with it too. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't have to
yeah,
be so serious all the time. And I know
yeah.
that we're both in Alicia Renice's community, The Garden. She talks about that a
Yes.
lot, right?
Yeah.
Just having fun, letting your inner
Yes.
child, your younger self, play a little bit,
Yeah.
and taking that
Yeah.
pressure
And
off to be perfect. Hmm.
because I mean, like you said, even in the garden, like as an adult, you do forget to learn joy or remember what joy is. Because sometimes I'm
Hmm.
still trying to remember, like, what is my joy? What did I like to do as a kid? Sometimes I have to
Yeah.
stop and think because it's been so long, and it's like, okay, well, let's look at colors.
Hmm.
I've been buying me coloring books and stuff like that, and trying to get back to what I like to do. So yeah,
I love that. I love that. And it's those small steps, right, that can like lead you to remember, oh my God, I used to love to do this. Why did I put it down? Because at some
yeah.
point somebody told you that it's time to be an adult, it's time to put that stuff away. It's like, no, that's the
hmm
stuff that actually brings you joy and like makes life,
Yeah.
colorful. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And I also think sometimes healing can always feel so heavy. So to be able
Yeah,
to kind of like
it's true.
bring joy and have fun, sometimes you need a break from healing, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Just because at one point I was kind of just, pulling myself apart and not really giving myself grace. But when you take a step back and do something fun, you're able to kind of because learning how to enjoy the moment is something that I'm still working on. And I'm
Hmm.
grateful for Alicia's community, because it gives you that it reminds you to do stuff like that because sometimes I forget. If I ain't thinking about the
Hmm.
past, I'm thinking about the future. So,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what about now? Like, girl.
Yeah. Ooh, that really resonated. Yes, because I'm always 10 steps ahead in the future. What could go wrong? What do I need to prepare for? It's like bring yourself
Mhm.
back to no, I can only live in this
Right.
moment right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Girl, I'm
Yeah.
already thinking about what I'm doing in 2024. 24. I'm like, okay, what goals do I have next year? I'm just like, I'm already stressing myself out. We ain't even in the new year yet.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
Yes, I can so relate to that. Yeah, I see the Dark Knight. Yes, Gumroad is a move for self-publishing because Amazon's trash. Yeah. Yeah.
Gumroad
Yes.
is very easy to
Yes.
navigate. I'm with you on
It
that.
is. It is.
Mm.
Yes. And Samara is also part of my community for Black women entrepreneurs, free Black women business community. But yeah, we teach about stuff like Gumroad and ConvertKit and stuff like this to just easily put your products up there
Yeah.
online.
A
So
lot of
yeah,
resources. A
I
lot.
love.
A lot of resources.
Yes.
And I like that um the women in the community just be throwing gems like, yeah, you can do
They.
that too. Or that's a skill. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yes.
I'm like, go
Because
ahead,
we
y'all.
tend
Go
to
ahead, community.
overlook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we tend to overlook the
Yeah.
things that come naturally to us because it
Yeah.
comes naturally to us until someone
Yeah.
else points it out, like, yo, that's something that you could actually monetize online and just start your business that easily. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm. We like,
absolutely.
girl, we don't need to pay for everybody else's. They be having these classes like pay $200 to learn how to start a business.
Yes, yes. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yes, yes. I didn't want to read this comment. Yes, it is truly wonderful to see younger Black women openly talking about and being about the change we need. Oh, thank you. Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. So yes, I wanted to ask. Okay, one of your videos that resonated with me personally was going no contact with a toxic parent, which I have experienced before, and I
Oh,
know really how painful that can be
yeah.
often. But I just wanted to ask, what led you to that decision of deciding to go no contact with your parent?
Well, like nothing drastically happened
Yeah.
when I decided to go no contact. Well, I don't want to say drastically happened, but um my mom is big on gaslighting. Um and I confronted her about something that was said a while ago, and she didn't take any form of accountability because, you know, usually they don't. When you're dealing with someone toxic, they always, you can't call them out on being wrong. And that's when it clicked on me, like I can't do this anymore. Like I need to I need to put myself first. I was also watching spiritual whistleblowers videos, and she was talking about how when when you are in contact with someone who is narcissistic, mainly a parent, they can still kind of control you even with little contact. And my mom was still controlling me. Like if I didn't text her back, like I haven't seen her in years, but I was still having phone text message conversations just so I can have a little pinch of a door open. But it was still like she was still controlling me even with that little bit of contact. um and then I also realized, like, I cannot be the best version of myself if I'm still in contact with someone who didn't treat me well. um and I just had to cut the cord. I mean, with when it comes down to our parents, I feel like they the ones who map up our relationships. They're the ones who they're our first love. Um, so when I confronted her and I was not validated, that was the last straw. And I was like, yeah, I can't do it anymore.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and yeah, for me, I had to do that early on, like in my
Yeah.
teens,
Really?
cutting my dad off
Oh,
because anytime he would come into my life, it would be pure chaos, right? And I had
right,
to make that decision for myself that should have been made for me at that
right.
age. But it's like when someone just brings that into your life all the time, it's
Yeah,
horrible, right? And it doesn't
yeah.
allow you to heal if you're still
Mm-mm.
connected to it. So
It's
sometimes you do
hard.
have to make that
Yeah.
decision. Yeah. Hmm.
And I commend you for realizing that as a teenager. That's, early on, I know that it's hard, especially at that age, but I commend you for doing that, for being able to do that at that age. Um,
Mm, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy
mm,
decision to make, but sometimes you get to that point. It's like, okay,
mhm.
nothing else is changing. This person's behavior is not changing. So I have to protect
Yeah.
myself and my
Yeah.
interest and my well being. Hmm.
And it's like you can love somebody from a distance. Like you don't have to have them in your life
Ooh, that
to
part.
love them. Like I can
Yes.
love you with a long spoon. I mean, even if you don't want
Yep.
to have a spoon, like I'll pray for you. Like, but I just can't, like I shouldn't have to have anxiety every time I feel like I have to answer the phone. Um,
Hmm.
you they can still love bomb you even through little communication because she was slithering. she
Mm.
she was
Hmm.
slithering. And I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, I've come a long way. I've grown a lot, and them light bulbs was clicking, and I was just like, yeah, something is not, it wasn't working.
Mm. Yeah. And I think that's important as you start to recognize a cycle of narcissistic abuse. You can kind of prepare yourself for the next step.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they discarded me, so I know that they're going to
Yeah.
try to love bomb me
Hmm.
to get me back into
Hmm.
this relationship soon. So you can
Yeah.
prepare yourself for your response. So those
Yeah.
of us who are like conflict avoidant, we can
Yeah.
have your
That's
notes.
oh,
This is
she
how
said
I have my
conflict
plan.
avoidant. That's ooh, that's it right there. Cause that's
Yeah.
me. I'm a healing people
Hmm.
pleaser, so that hit
Me too. Me
me
too.
hard. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I
Hmm.
mean, and I'm glad I called her out. My mom used to gaslight me a lot. She used to actually call me crazy for being in therapy. When I was living
Mm.
with her, she was very threatened about me going to therapy, and I remember I confronted her about it. Because she made a comment and she told me, she was like, you were so smart from being in therapy. And then at that moment you would think, oh, thank you. But then I was
Hmm.
just like, no, why weren't you proud of me when I was going then? Um,
Right.
but you're proud of me now. Something is not right. And when I called her out on it, she did a whole 360. And that's when I realized, like, I think I'm being love bombed. She is gaslighting me, and I don't like this. This is not genuine. So I ended up
Hmm.
just saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And that those terms, right? Even just having the terms for what someone's doing, because
Hmm.
like you may not be able to put words to it
Right.
before you have the terms, but you know how it feels. But then
Yes.
once you have the term, it's like, okay, now I can plug this to what
Hmm.
type of behavior I'm witnessing right now. Hmm.
Yeah, because that's the crazy thing with narcissistic abuse is like it really is hard to explain because certain like narcissists from what I hear like for an example, my mom, she would love bomb me as well with gifts, but it was actually a way for her to control me. So like whenever I had a friend say, "Oh my God, she bought you that. That is so nice." But then it's like, yeah, in your mind that's nice, but me, I know what that means. I know what that gives, it's not about love, it's about access, it's about control. But like somebody on the outside would not really see it that way. So it's like it can be tricky when you've been in this type of abuse because everybody don't get it. Because it might look preaching, nice and clean on the outside, but this is manipulation, this is love bombing, this is controlling. You know what I mean? So like in knowing terms, like you said, is helpful. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, people who are not familiar with this may not even
Mhm.
understand what you're talking about. Like,
Mm-mm.
it looks
Mm-mm.
nice from the outside, like you said, giving a gift, a parent giving you a gift, but you know what's underneath it. You know the strings that are
Mhm.
attached to it. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not the same
Yeah.
thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's why it's important to be around other people who have experienced this before, because they can
Yeah.
support you through that. So it doesn't
Yeah.
feel so isolating as you're going through it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I agree. It is true. Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about reparenting, which we talked a little bit about, but just the importance of reparenting ourselves if we've had those difficult relationships with our caregivers where we didn't get what we needed and what we deserved from them.
Yeah. Like for me, Whenever I find it hard for me to kind of like, how can I say this? Because I spoke to my therapist about this. Whenever I find it hard for me to kind of, I guess, talk to myself nicely, I pretend that I'm talking to little me. Um, I mean, I don't have any children now. I don't know if I want kids in the future, but sometimes I think about, and I don't know if this is a good thing, but I think about when I think about reparenting, I think about how I would want to, if I had a child, how would I want that child to be treated? You know what I mean? Even though you're supposed to put yourself first, but sometimes it is difficult, so I kind of have to mind trick myself certain ways. Um, but reparenting it is important because when you've gone through abuse, you kind of realize like I don't know if you ever seen, sorry, I'm like all over the place, but I don't know if you ever
Mm,
heard
you're
there's this
fine.
book called The Girl in the Milk Carton. And it was about this girl who found out that she was kidnapped because she saw a picture of her on the back of a milk carton. When I think about abuse, I think about like I was robbed. I was kidnapped from the person. Like everything about me was everything that I was taught, everything that was said to me was a lie, and like
Mm,
doing the opposite of it. Like I am worthy, even though I always felt that way or I was told that way when I was a kid. That was a lie. It's like kind of getting your identity back, if that makes sense.
yeah, that
You
makes
know,
perfect sense. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like and I think that's kind of like what reparenting is just starting from scratch and getting your identity back.
Mm, that's key. Starting from scratch and getting your
Mhm.
identity back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because we come here knowing who we are,
Hmm.
right? And somewhere along
Yeah.
the way, like experiencing abuse from all these different angles, it's like you kind of lose yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's going back to who was I before all this happened to me?
Mhm.
Because you can always go back
Yeah.
and get those parts of yourself. Hmm.
Yeah, and then you start to realize that part was there the whole time. I didn't even know it. It's like a
Yeah,
turtle looking for something, and then that something is on a shell, and it's like, oh, okay, it was there on me the whole
that's true.
time. Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, even though I never spoke up, me wanting to speak was always in me. That was always there because I remember as a kid, I was always like performing, or I was always presenting stuff, even though I was the shyest one. And then now I'm
Hmm.
realizing, girl, because you always had something to say.
Mm.
You just didn't know it then.
Wow.
Even though you were shy, you still
Hmm.
was in these like spaces because you was always meant to be there. It's like maybe you just didn't know it.
Mm. That's key. That's
Yeah.
key. So it's even like doing the things that you couldn't do as a child, or like
Mm-hmm.
stuff that you may, like you said,
Yep.
have been too shy to do. You can do that
Yeah.
now as an adult. Like it's not too
Yeah.
late. It's not too late to express those parts of yourself. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, yeah, I did want to ask you about another term, limerence.
Yeah.
This is a term I recently just came across, but you did a video on this on your channel.
Yeah.
So I would love to talk to you about your experience with limerence and anything you like to share around that term for people who may not know.
Yes. So I've experienced limerence. This limerence is something that I'm still, working through. Um, Limerence is, from what I've looked up, it is a trauma response. Um, if you were somebody who didn't get your emotional needs met, if you were never validated. um, I remember as a kid being in my own imagination and being in my own thoughts was a way to escape reality. And when I think about limerence, I can bring that back to when I was a kid. um, Limerence is something that is kind of difficult because it's like it keeps you stagnant. um, but I wanted to speak about limerence because, like you said, this is a term that, because my therapist didn't even know what limerence is when I brought it up. Like a lot of people don't really know what it is, which is because it's a new term from what I did the research. It's kind of a new term. um, but I don't even remember where I heard someone speak about limerence, but um, it can be difficult. What helps me cope with limerence is doing the research on it, realizing where it stems from, and I'm looking into going into EMDR therapy. Because from what I did research, EMDR therapy definitely helps with limerence. From what I've heard, I could be wrong. Um, because it does help. I mean, it helps if you have PTSD, depression, and anxiety. But when I did a consultation with an EMDR therapist, she did know what limerence was. Um, and I did some research, and it does kind of help with it. But it can be tricky. I know it's something that a lot. I think it can be shameful and embarrassing to talk about, but it's real life. It's real life, you know.
It is. It is.
And learning how to validate yourself kind of helps out with limerence, because limerence is a trauma response. If you were somebody who, you weren't being validated as a kid, if you didn't have your emotional needs met, you made the develop it. But when you start to kind of like do the reprogramming, do your affirmations, and kind of keep one step in reality, it does kind of help. For me,
Hmm.
it helps with my limerence.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And yeah, I never heard this term. I've been in therapy. I'm a social worker. I went to graduate school for social work. No one ever
Yeah,
mentioned these terms to me. Like not even
yeah.
narcissistic abuse. This is something I learned on
Hmm.
on YouTube
Yeah,
just through my
a
own
lot of
research. And
therapists
I'm
don't.
like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
they don't.
yeah, they
They don't.
don't. They don't. Like I remember when I brought up limerence to a therapist, she looked at me like I have forehead. She was like, "I don't know what that is," and I was like, "Never mind."
Hmm.
Never mind.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that just speaks to like the availability of education that we now have on the internet,
Yeah,
right? To
yeah,
educate
yeah,
ourselves from a lot of the stuff that we learn in like graduate school as social workers is not taught to us. It's not in the
yeah,
curriculum.
yeah,
So just having access to that information to study it yourself um, is key. And I think the
yeah,
internet has made that a lot more
yeah.
available. Yeah. Um,
I agree.
yeah. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for commenting. I did want to ask you about challenges you faced while healing, and how you moved through anything that came up, like those sticking points that may have been
Yeah.
difficult to get through, just for other people who may be experiencing this too.
Um, challenging one still, because when it comes down to healing, you also have to realize that when you, I mean, to each his own. I don't know how everyone's story is, but when you grow up in abuse, you tend to kind of take on those traits too. So the challenging part about healing is like realizing that there are some traits about myself that I need to work on. And that can be challenging because it can be scary. Um, and being able to take accountability for that. Because, going to therapy and healing, yes, you talk about what you've been through and you want to get those needs validated, but also being able to look at yourself. Because in one of my videos, I talked about karmic friendships, and I was a karmic friend. I was that friend who felt like I was entitled to people's time. You know what I mean? I was that person who felt like I was a know-it-all and I had to like fix everybody else. You know what I mean? And some friendships, people kind of stepped away from me, and I understand why now. So being able to just kind of look at myself and just give myself grace, but also be able to kind of hold myself accountable at the same time, because I'm just realizing people pleasing is a form of manipulation, and I didn't know that. I was like, wait a minute now. When my therapist said that, I was like, huh? I'm not manipulating. And then she had to break it down, and I was like, yeah, you're right. you know
Hmm.
you got
And
it.
yeah, and that's something I'm like, because I have heard that
Yeah,
it's a form of manipulation, but I'm like, I guess from my perspective, I'm like,
yeah,
we're not coming at it from that point, of intentionally
hmm,
intentionally manipulating someone, right?
yeah,
Because I feel like there's an intention with that term.
yeah,
So that's something I've been
yeah,
I've been seeing around. Like, I don't know if but yeah, I know therapists have different views of
yeah.
things. So
But
yeah.
I get where you're coming from. Like I understand what you're saying. It's kind of hard for me to
Hmm.
explain on my end, but I get where you're coming from,
Yeah,
because like you said, that's not your intent, you know, because people pleasing is kind of like a surviving tactic in a way.
yeah, it's a
Like
trauma
a lot of
response.
a trauma response. So
Hmm.
you do it in a
Yeah.
way because you had to. Like, I didn't
Exactly.
know any other way to
Mm-hmm.
navigate. Like, I had to walk on
Mm-hmm.
eggshells. I had to smile when I wasn't happy. I had to like want my mom's validation, so I was just molding myself into, you know what I mean? But I
Exactly.
guess,
Yep.
yeah. And I get where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because, yeah, it is a
Hmm.
response, something that we had
Hmm.
to do, like you said, to protect
Hmm.
ourselves. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, with manipulation, it's like, yeah, but that
Hmm.
was something we had to do to survive.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
real,
Yeah.
in response to the environment that we were in response to the toxic environment. Um, and it's something we can unlearn as adults, right? But the
Hmm.
roots of
You're
that are
not
very
steps.
real. They're rooted in real
It
experiences.
is.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes down to like healing, it's like, and this is another thing that's challenging, is giving myself grace.
Yeah.
Being able
Yeah.
to give myself grace is something that I am working on, because I can be my toughest critic and I can be really hard on
Me
myself.
too.
But then I have to
Yeah.
take a step back, like, girl, first of all, those who are doing, healing and stuff, we're doing the work that our parents didn't have the strength or the courage to do. Like,
Yes.
the strength or
That's
maybe
true. Yeah.
resources, because I don't
Or
know how it
yeah.
was back then, you know.
Because a lot of
Um,
this stuff is new
mhm.
for our
Yeah.
generation specifically. Like even talking about mental
Mhm.
health, because it wasn't
Mhm.
safe to do so before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So grace, 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 grace. I need to put that on my healing board. I'm surprised it's not even on. Let me add that when I'm gonna add that tonight before I go to bed. Grace.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, just reading a comment from Lola Sunshine. You're talking good, Mara. These therapists don't know about narcissism, limerence, etc. My last therapist called me paranoid when I was telling him some of my story. Oh my gosh.
Girl, it's
Ooh.
okay to get a new
Yeah.
therapist. I'm therapy shopping. Let me tell you
That part.
something. These
Yes.
and Marissa, you know, because you've been here, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is not a one
No,
size fit all. And when I
it's not.
mean, first of all, insurance is not cheap. Like, it
No.
ain't hard out here. So if I'm paying for service, I want a therapist that I know, because I've had therapists who low key was gaslighting. I had a therapist
Mm-hmm.
tell me that I need to give my mom grace, and I'm like, girl, you crazy? You crazy? Grace? Me being in contact with her is grace. I had to cut her
Mm-hmm.
loose. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's what, the situation, but sometimes when it comes down to therapists, just like you have good doctors, and you don't have the so-called good doctors, good teachers, not so good teachers. Like, with
Right.
therapy, make sure you feel comfortable and validated. Because,
That's key.
whew,
That is key. And like you said, it's okay to shop around for therapists. It's
mm-hmm,
okay to try one out and be like, okay, this is not
mm-hmm,
gelling with me. This doesn't feel
yep,
healing. And a
yep,
lot of times we'll gaslight ourselves because this person has credentials, again, the letters behind their name. And we're
mm-hmm,
like, okay, they know what they're talking about, but not everyone is created the same. Like you said, teachers,
yeah,
like we're people. We're still
yeah,
people bringing our own biases into everything that we do. So it's okay to shop
yeah,
around if it's
it
not
is.
feeling good for you. Hmm.
I remember my best friend had gave me advice on therapy, and she was just like, like, I think that's what you said. Like, some techniques may work for one client, but it may not work for another. And
Hmm.
sometimes, like the last therapist I had, I felt like she was just telling me what she thought I wanted to hear. It didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like, girl, is your textbook next to you and you have it memorized, and you just, you know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I wasn't feeling the
Hmm.
connection. I'm telling her I
Right.
have a toxic job. She's telling me I need to work at McDonald's. I'm like, girl, but we ain't, what? Not with this
I
rent.
remember when you told us that, like, what?
It's like, did she just tell me this after I was crying in a session? She told me to go work at McDonald's. I looked at this lady like she was crazy as
Hmm.
hell.
Hmm. And you know what? It brings something else up, like the power dynamic. Sometimes there's
Mm-hmm.
like an unequal power dynamic when someone is
Yeah.
a therapist and you're in that
Yeah.
relationship, just like anything, like a teacher, a boss, and they'll take
Yep.
advantage of that,
Yes, they
and
will.
talk down to
They
you
will.
sometimes, even in a
Hmm.
therapeutic session,
Yeah,
which is,
they will.
oof,
Even passive aggressive,
yes,
because mine was kind of passive aggressive in a little way. But I peep it. I peep that because
yes,
I don't like passive aggressive. Once I
yeah.
peep passive aggressive, I'm like, yeah, this ain't working.
Because it's confusing, right?
It
Especially as
is.
you're like trying to heal from something like narcissistic abuse,
Hmm.
which comes with a lot of that passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not trying to
Yeah.
experience that in a therapy
Hmm.
setting as
Yeah.
well.
And you
So
already
that's
trying to
real.
learn how to trust yourself, but then now you got a therapist who you can't trust, and you like, wait a minute, this just came a little bit more complicated. But sorry, my cat is in the background.
Yes. Oh
Um,
no, you're fine.
sorry, but I love therapy. There are a lot of amazing therapists out there.
Oh
I
yeah,
never let
yeah.
it kind of discourage it, but
Absolutely.
like it's just shopping. It's kind of like dating in a way. You kind of have to like
Hmm.
pinpoint. I
Yeah.
know this cat is really trying to be in this live. I'm
No, you're fine. You're fine. He is welcome. I did want to ask you, as we're wrapping up, do you have any
sorry.
resources that you would recommend for Black women who may be healing from narcissistic abuse?
Um, so resources, I don't want to just I would say more of community. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I listen to a lot of content creators um who talk about narcissism and narcissistic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if you mean like physical resources, like
Just
what do
anything.
you
Yeah,
mean?
community is a great,
I think community.
recommendation. Yeah.
I think community for me. I mean, you can get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of books. I suffer from complex PTSD, and I'm reading this. I don't know if I can grab it, but it's a book about this author who wrote about complex PTSD. And it's I don't know if I can. Can I just grab it really quickly? I'm sorry. Can I grab the book and
Oh
kind of
yeah,
show you? Okay,
absolutely. No. Yeah.
sorry.
Absolutely. You're fine. You're fine. Yes, hope and victory. I learned to stay quiet before my parents to survive, not to disappoint them. Now, as an adult, I tend to stay quiet in a lot of situations, although I want to speak. My body starts acting, need to unlearn. Yeah, I can so
Yeah,
resonate with this. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that. Yep.
Mm,
Yep. Those same
Um,
behaviors that protected you as a
yeah.
young person, you'll carry them over into adulthood. When you know
Mhm.
that you want to speak, you know you want to say something, but your body still reacts the same way. So that's real. And
Yeah,
that's trauma, the impact of trauma.
it
Yeah.
is. Not being able to speak up, that's something that I'm still learning
Yeah.
in this channel. Having a channel helps out a lot. Practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's this book by Pete Walker, and it's called Complex PTSD and Surviving to Thriving. So like I kind of like read books that resonate with me when it comes down to like um trauma. So I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe finding books that if you like to read, helps, but also finding community is a good resource. And my channel.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. I'm about to link your channel again. Yes. Y'all, please subscribe. Let's talk about it with Mara to her channel. Yes. Yes. Okay. And I do want to ask, I know I
Mhm.
linked your ebook, your affirmations ebook. Um, but if you have any other offerings or things that you're planning to offer in the future, and then how
Yes.
people can continue to stay connected with you online.
So yes, I do have a lot of plans in the future. I have a lot of plans in regards to my YouTube channel and the type of content that I want to do. I know so for me growing up in watching Disney movies and cartoons was stuff that I loved to do as a kid. But now as an adult, I kind of be seeing the little gems in
Mhm.
these movies and shows, even to narcissism. Girl, I was watching Hey Arnold the other day, and I'm like, Helga whole family was a hot mess.
Oh,
So a hot mess. And I was like, maybe some content and kind of using those type of shows to kind of like,
oh yeah.
break that
Mm-hmm.
down. In the future, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about starting an online business with products or creating more
Mm-hmm.
journals, self-care journals. It's still out in the open. It's still out in the open, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see how
Yes.
how next year is, but
Yes.
I do have
We're
some
excited to see. Mm-hmm.
yeah, ideas that I'm working on.
Yay. Yes. But yes, your affirmations ebook is everything. So again, that's linked in the chat. But yeah, I did want to go over a few comments that I've highlighted
Sure.
just here. The Lady Blurred says, my old boss still hovers. Don't even report to him anymore, but my skin crawls every time he passes my desk. I'm
Oh my
sorry. That's a
gosh.
lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And
Hovering is
narcissistic abuse
something.
in the workplace, yeah, is
Yes.
huge.
Yeah.
I mean, even me being in Dr. Kamani's channel and like her
Yeah.
chats, hearing stories of that. of jobs trying to ring you back in
Mhm.
after they've
Mhm.
abused you. It's like, this is real. And this
That's
gets to
terrible.
this. How about inclusively identifying pathological whiteness, aka white supremacy, as a form of narcissism? Yeah, yeah.
That
Because the
part.
greater
Yep.
forces, yeah, the greater forces, systemic
Yep.
oppression that we
Mhm.
experience informs how we interact with each other.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
so that's
So
key.
white
That's key. And
supremacy, you got it. That is, yep.
mm-hmm,
Very
that's a great
yep.
point. That is a great point. Yeah. And Cheyenne says, Cha-ching, Sister Mare just bought the ebook for my daughter. Okay, there you
Oh, thank
go.
you.
See, we need these resources.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for creating them. And then Sunny, yes, I'm visiting my dad after this. I don't want to visit anymore. I don't want to celebrate Mother's Day or Father's Day. I don't want them to walk me down the aisle if I do one day. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Protect your
Yeah.
peace. Protect your
Yeah.
peace.
Yeah.
Protect it.
Those
Even on
relationships.
holidays is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. It is. It
Protect your
is.
peace.
Yeah. And there's no manual for this, right? When you have
Mm-mm.
a caregiver
Amen.
or a parent
Mm-mm.
who is narcissistic, it's just trial and error. It's
Yeah.
educating yourself, it's seeking out therapy
Mhm.
to try to heal yourself from the harm that they
Yeah.
inflict and try to
Yeah.
analyze their behavior, which is kind
Yeah.
of interesting that you have to do that to someone who's supposed to be protecting and providing for you.
Yeah.
The roles are
Yeah.
kind of
And
reversed,
it's
right?
hard on the holidays.
Yeah.
They mention Mother's Day and
Yeah.
Father's Day, and when you have big events like weddings and walking you down the aisle, but for me, I have friends who are my family. So I was grateful, if I ever get married, I'll have my best friend walk me down the aisle, or I won't have no one, make your own traditions, everything, or you don't even have to do it how you want to do it. Even on
Right.
holidays, I had a me's giving this year. Last year I went to the movies. I
Mm-hmm.
created my own kind of way to keep me going. And when you grow up in these type of environments and doing no contact, it is difficult, but you have the power. That's the part that I like, is having control
Mm-hmm.
of who I can have in my life. And I don't have to do things that's the quote unquote norm to everybody else. I do
Mm-hmm.
things what's best for me and what makes me
Mm.
happy. Even if I gotta cut
That
off
is good.
enablers.
Ooh, that we didn't even
Mhm.
talk about enablers.
I'm a neighbor girl. Oh, you don't
Ooh,
talk to your mom? No, and don't ask me that again.
yeah,
Don't ask me that. You know
that's
why.
real.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is real. Because they can be the ones that gaslight you
Mhm.
the most,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
No, it's okay. Just go back. Just give them another chance. It's like, no,
Oh,
I've seen this
I'm
play out
good.
over and over again, and I'm the one who gets
Mhm.
hurt in the
Mhm.
process.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Hmm.
Especially when
Yeah.
you are a people pleaser too, that can be hard because you know what I mean? You're
Mm-hmm.
like want everybody to kind of be pleased, and then it's like when they tell you that, you're like, oh, well, maybe they look at me a different way, and then it's like after a while I was like, I don't give a damn because you're not walking in my shoes. You don't have my mental health, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's real. That's real. The Dark Knight says it's been a super long process breaking away from people pleasing. I can't believe I broke from it. I give thanks to y'all for
Ooh,
helping me. Oh, yay.
congratulations,
I'm glad.
congratulations.
Yes, I'm still in
Power.
the trenches.
Me too.
Oh,
We can learn
gotta
from
let
you,
go.
the Dark Knight.
Yes, yes, we
There's
can.
power out here.
Yes, yes. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, Alicia. Thank you. Her channel has been so healing,
Oh,
so
oh,
healing.
I
There's
love
just
it.
not words
Yes,
for it.
yes.
Yes.
Yours too,
Lola Sunshine
Marissa.
says, "Oh, thank
Yours
you,
too.
thank you,
Yours too. Because you
thank
give me
you,
hope, you give me strength. Like
hmm
yours too.
thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Trying to accept compliments again. That's something I'm working on, but I do
I
appreciate
understand.
that. I do. Yes. Lola Sunshine says enablers equals flying monkeys. Yeah, that term. That term. That's
Yep.
another term in narcissistic abuse. Flying monkeys. Yep.
Yes, flying
Trying to
monkeys.
convince you that what
Yep.
you're seeing and experiencing is not real.
Hmm.
So that can
Yep.
lead you down the
And
path
sometimes
of
they can go back
yeah.
and tell the narcissist something. You got to be careful because if you have somebody
Yes,
who
that's true.
they can go
That's
back and
true.
say so and so yes, flying monkeys.
Mm-hmm. Yep, That is real. That is real. Educator says, I've been educated so much tonight, ladies. Yay. Yay. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so glad you're here. You always add so much in the chat. So thank you. Thank you. Dark Nate says, and it's crazy because the main one's gaslighting you don't even know the reality of your situation. Yep.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yep.
They don't.
Yep.
And it's a lot of it is image based, right? Especially when you're talking about a caregiver or a parent. It's like there's this expectation that you do have to be around this person. You do have to put up with whatever behaviors that they throw at you, no matter what
especially
effect it has on you.
Like churches, because I have a neighbor who was super nice, but I remember she told me, you need to speak to your mom because y'all don't understand that's what makes you sick. And I'm like, no, it's the other way around. When you are in contact with somebody who is toxic, that makes you sick. Your body makes you sick. That's why you have women who are in toxic, or not even women, men, any toxic relationships. Some people develop fibroids, you know what I'm saying? High blood pressure, back pain. Being in an environment, toxic jobs can be straining on your body, on your mental. Like you have to get away from it. You can't. And a lot of people project. That's what I think it is too. A lot of it can be projection from others. Some people have their own stuff that they haven't even dealt with. So when they see somebody separating from somebody toxic, they might project that. They might do enabling as a way to projection. Because it's like, well, I wasn't able to separate myself, so you can't do it neither.
Ooh, you touched on something. Yeah. Kind of that envy, like, why can't you do it? And I couldn't, even though you do have the power to do it. Some people are not ready to tap into that and feel like they can't for whatever reason. So when they see you protecting yourself, it's like, well, why am I still this? It kind of creates that feeling of envy and jealousy that rises up. Yeah. Yeah. That's so real. Yes. Open Victor, I need to keep learning to heal. Healing feels like a lifelong process. It is.
It does.
I think it really is. I think
it does.
A destination point to healing because as we live, things will open wounds that we didn't even know existed. And we're like, oh, I got to go back to what was this childhood memory connected to? It's like, because that's where a lot of what we experience in adulthood comes from, right? Childhood.
Yeah.
The majority of our brain development. Yeah.
That's why I like Alicia's channel, because when you talk about having fun and having joy, it gives you to kind of step away for a bit and just have fun, where your mind is just not focusing on, I need to heal, I need to heal. You know what I'm saying? Like just being able to just kind of, I remember one time one of my cousins said it's okay to turn your back away from that mirror. Like it's okay to turn your back away, from that mirror and pulling yourself apart and feeling like I got to do this and just find ways just to have fun.
Right.
That's what I'm learning.
Yeah. Because you can still heal while having fun. It doesn't have to feel like this heavy, burdensome, like, okay, I got to journal now. Because I think a lot of people don't journal, don't do these things that are healing because it does feel so heavy. So if you can bring a lightness to it.
That's too heavy. Yeah.
That word.
You have to tap into emotions you might be scared of. Because sometimes I don't want to journal because I'm like, do I really even want to tap into that feeling? I don't know if I want to touch that. I don't want to touch that. I feel too hot for me. Too hot.
That's real. That's real. So if you can bring that like playful energy into it, like even drawing, even like getting out like colored pencils and making it fun, getting out your coloring book. It doesn't have to feel so heavy all the time. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, as we're wrapping up, I wanted to thank you for being here, sharing everything that you shared tonight. Is this your first interview on YouTube?
Yes, I was nervous, y'all, but I have fun. Thank you so much. You broke me out of my shell because you're an inspiration. I'm like, if Marissa could do it, I could do it too. I could do it. I see them doing it. I could do it.
Like, yes,
like
you absolutely can. You absolutely can, and you are doing it. I'm about to link your YouTube channel again. Yeah, so please subscribe to Mara's channel. Let's talk about it with Mara. And agreed, the Dark Nate, time goes by too fast on these lives. Yes, it does. Because I'm like, it's been an hour already. I can sit here and talk to you Another few hours.
Right.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing. But yay, yay, we're celebrating you, congratulating you.
Thank you.
And we're excited to see everything that you create in the future because it will be so healing, whatever you create.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm excited to share.
yeah. I'll leave it with this educator. Wouldn't have known it was your first interview. Me neither.
Oh,
Me
thank
neither.
you. Girl, I was scared, but I appreciate that.
Yes, yes. All right, y'all. I thank you so much for being here and for chat and commenting in the chat, everything that you've shared. Yeah, until next time, y'all.
See you
Take
guys
care.
later. Bye.
See ya.